Samurai with that look in his eye, walking through a wasteland, sword swinging peaceful at his side. After bringing the type of...
What up, everybody? I'm just driving to work right now. Marshall Matters. We're in here. So right now I'm just driving to work, noticing the chill in the air right as it's turning to winter. About 38 degrees. Starting to get uncomfortable, at least for us folk that are from warmer climates. And it just reminds me, it's like there's a lot of people that I'm hearing these days, ever since these elections happened, that are talking about inevitability, that are sensing inevitability of things that are coming to this world. We don't know why we're feeling this way, but we're feeling it regardless, right? I'm sure there's plenty of people that are going to hear this and are like, yeah, no, that's me all day. So, again, Marshall Matters. The Lord is a man of war. The Lord is his name. If you men are feeling a chill in the air, you're feeling this sense of like things are getting ready to change, not for the better, even if it's just a little hunch, don't you think that you should be doing something about that? Don't you think that you should be training just a little bit harder? I mean, you owe that to your families. You owe that to yourselves. God is not calling you to be a passive bystander as the things that are coming come. He's just not. So why would you sit on the sidelines and say it's just going to be all right? It'll blow over, but man, things don't feel normal. Well, hey, it's like at the end of the day, we have a base instinct just like the animals do, and we can tell when things aren't right. And you're not the only one who's feeling this. Everybody I know is feeling something in the air, and honestly, we've been feeling something in the air since 2020, literally. But my point is that as a believer, and even as an unbeliever, it's like as a man, you should be training harder than you've ever trained in your life. You should be getting stronger. You should be getting familiar with your weapons. You should be getting more cardio. You should be just doing better. Period. Yeah, I'm just saying, it's like the way the world is right now, anything can change. I mean, just the other day, it's like Joe Biden had literally told Ukraine that he gave Ukraine the green light to go ahead and use long-range missiles against Russia, in Russia. And Russia's turning around going like, well, F y'all, you guys do that, we're gonna freaking nuke you. And then US, we're gonna hit you before Christmas. So I'm just saying, it's like, if you go out in a nuke, great, go out in a blaze of glory, go out quick. But if you don't, and you're around for the collapse of civilization as we know it, then you better be ready. You better be ready. Because your family is going to depend on you. And nobody, I mean, it's like, you want to be caught with your pants down, holding your dicks at the end of the day? Oh man, I should have trained. Oh man, I should have bought a gun. Oh man, well, X that out. Oh man, I should have had a knife. I should have went hiking. I should have got some skills. Do you want any of those things to be your reality when the grocery stores are empty? Do you want any of those things to be your reality when there's roving bands of cartel hit squads roaming? Oh, wait a minute, they're already here. Or when there's roving platoons of Chinese soldiers dressed as UN folk coming to round you and your family up? Do you guys want to have any of those thoughts if, when, any of these inevitable possibilities become a reality? And not just any. What if all of them become a reality? What if the feeling that you're feeling is an indicator for you to actually do something to prepare yourself, to prepare your family for the inevitability of the worst times in human history? What if it's your instinct that's telling you that? What if it's the Holy Spirit nudging you, going like, hey, wake up, wake up? And it's just him graciously like pushing you to actually say, hey, come on, man, steward this. It's like, I'll multiply it if you just steward it. Just steward it a little bit. Faith the size of a mustard seed. Come on, I'm looking for a couple of you. And there are a couple of us. Because, I mean, there's a couple of people, there's a couple of guys that I'm following on YouTube. Jamie Walden, American Vindicted, Doug Thornton, War Poet, John Lovell. I mean, there's some warriors out there that are calling to men to prepare for what's coming, and they're telling you exactly what's coming. I have been preparing. I have been training since I was 7 years old in martial arts. I have been in the streets where I've had to use martial arts in incredibly dangerous and violent situations. I've almost died numerous times. I've actually been shot once. So I may not have been in combat, but I've had a very violent background, and I understand what violence looks like. I understand what death looks like. I understand what people getting shot and bones getting broken and meat hanging off of people's faces after getting jumped in the streets look like. And I understand that's only a fraction of what chaos can look like. That's only a tiny fraction of what chaos can look like. I've never seen anything like Haiti where the entire like rule of law has fallen and there's cannibalistic gangs running through the streets. I've never seen anything like that. So I train, and I continue to train. I'm a civilian, but I train, and I continue to train, because I am not going to be a liability when this thing happens. I understand that the Lord is a man of war, and the Lord is his name, and that by my God I can run against a troop. By my God I can leap over a high building or a tall wall. By my God I can kill a giant. By my God I can kill a hybrid. I'm not worried about the things that are coming. I need to know my God. So if you do not understand that the Lord is a man of war, and he requires his men to also be men of war and men of valor, then you don't know your God. Period. The Lord is a man of war. The Lord is his name. Those who know their God in these times will go forth and do mighty exploits or mighty deeds of valor. And they will instruct many. And it's a promise for those who know their God. It's a promise. So, one of the things we know about our God is that he loves diligence. He loves stewardship. He loves diligence and he loves stewardship. And if you even just steward something, just if you have enough faith to hear what he says and to steward it, even if it's just a little bit, even if you can't like become an expert martial artist overnight, or an expert gunman overnight, or an expert knife fighter overnight, or an expert bushcraft woodsman overnight, even if you feel like you're so behind that you might as well not even start, that's not the right attitude. Have faith. Have faith. It's the faith the size of a mustard seed. Do what he's calling you to do in the moment and trust that he will multiply it. Your preps mean absolutely nothing at the end of the day if you don't know your God. You could have an entire bunker full of weapons, ammo, food, medical supplies, you name it. You could be a billionaire with a small country's worth of survival things. And guess what? The Lord looks at those things and calls them 5 loaves and 2 fish. He either looks at them as 5 loaves and 2 fish that he's going to multiply to feed his people with, or he's going to look at that and scoff. Psalm 2. Why do the nations rage and the people plot a vain thing? The rulers of this earth have joined themselves together against the Lord and against his anointed, trying to cast his bonds from them, thinking that they can prepare enough to either thwart or to escape the inevitability of his judgment. That's what they're trying to do. The truth of the world is that the world is actually predominantly, they're not, I'm not going to say they're Christians, they're not followers of the way, but they're predominantly Judeo-Christian mindseted or centric views of the world. They know exactly who's coming. They know exactly who's causing all of this. They know exactly who's in the storm. So they think that they can actually prepare enough to escape the inevitability of God's judgments, of the God-man coming back to rule. They think they can. They think they can make war against him. They literally think they can make war against him. The rulers of this earth set themselves against the Lord and his anointed. And he's going, and he laughs. He laughs. The entire world's machinations collectively against him. He's like, okay. You know what I mean? But those who know their God, whatever he's given you to do that you've stewarded in faith, it's your 5 loaves and 2 fish. We see that time and time and time again. A shepherd boy kills a Nephilim enhanced monster. I mean, the guy was wearing 200 to 300 pounds of armor. So that's just his armor. That wasn't even his shield. That wasn't his sword. That wasn't his spear. That was just his chainmail. Weighed almost 300 pounds. And the guy was closer to probably 10 to 12 feet tall rather than the classic 9 that we always talk about. But I digress. Goliath wasn't the biggest of the giants, let's just put it that way. The mighty men killing hybrid heroes, you know what I mean, slaying 800 people in a barley field or with a spear. These guys were bad to the bone, and I mean that's my thing. It's like does anybody really need the Bible to tell you that these elite warriors trained? Does anybody need you to do you think God he can take somebody who has nothing and give them everything? He can, but the majority of the time, and actually in reality I can't even think of anything right off the jump where he just took somebody who didn't steward anything and gave them everything. I can't think of anything like that. Everybody who he gave extreme abilities to had a stewardship aspect to it. Like Samson had strength that he was blessed with from day one, and he was consecrated to the Lord, and he was never supposed to cut his hair. That was the condition. Joseph was second in command to Pharaoh over Egypt, and he had to go to prison for 13 years after stewarding his master's house. Moses led his people out of the promise, or out of the wilderness, or into the wilderness, out of Egypt, after being in the wilderness himself for 40 years, tending sheep. David, obviously, shepherd boy that fought bears and lions. And then he went up against a giant because he knew his God. But then the people who followed David, I go on a little rant for a second. I was in the charismatic movement for quite some time, and I've had so many people come up to me, I mean, probably just because I train, and they're just like, oh yeah, you're like a David, you're a man of war. I mean, and they don't know what any of that stuff means. And it's just like, yeah, okay, you're a relatively big guy, you're pretty strong, you train, yeah, okay. That's what most people are just gonna like naturally, oh yeah, you're like a David. I don't want to be like a David. I mean, I do want to be like a man after God's own heart, but in reality, I don't want to lead people like that. I'm sick. I've had to lead people, and I'm sick of leading people. It's like, I'd rather follow a David. I'd rather follow King Jesus. I'd rather follow the second David the second Adam. I'd rather just be one of his mighty men. Like, point and shoot, Lord, I'll go do it. You know, it's like, I'd rather just be a dread warrior, a dread champion, one of his champions. I don't want to be king. Are you kidding me? Being king sucks. Being the leader, the guy that everybody's like looking to, sucks. It freaking blows. Because people suck. You know what I mean? Not everybody sucks, but most people really do. Most people, like, they'll talk a good game, they'll talk about training, they'll talk about doing all this stuff, and then when it comes time, no call, no shows. It's just the way it goes. It's just the way it goes. There are 3 people who are training with me consistently now, and out of those 3, one of them just started, and he's fighting a lot of stuff. So by training is his act of faith to show up on Saturday morning because it keeps him from drinking the night before. And I'm just like, right on, dude. And he's fighting. He's fighting for his family. He's fighting for his walk with the Lord. He's fighting. And I'm just like, dude, that's dope. You're doing great. Keep fighting. The other one, second one, he's trained with me over the years, on and off. And the on and off was because that's where he was with the Lord, was on and off. He wasn't consistent with the Lord. He had a lot of hidden stuff in the closet that he just recently dealt with, and him coming and training is part of his walk right now. Is part of beating his flesh into submission. It's like physical fitness is not everything as a believer. We know that. But it is something. It is something. And as men, we live in a society right now where the Western male is lazy, is soft, and is complacent. Our enemies are at our doorsteps, whether you want to believe it or not. They've been at our doorsteps for a long time, and most people's temptation is to be complacent. It's like, oh yeah, we've known that America's the greatest country on earth, we're never going to fall. Wrong. Our time is up. And whether that's tomorrow, whether that's today, whether that's a week from now, a month from now, a year from now, the age of grace is over. The time of grace for America is over. What you have done with the Lord in this season that He's given you, He will multiply it. He's either going to multiply your woes because you've sowed under the flesh, or He's going to multiply Himself because you've sowed in righteousness. There's only 2 kingdoms. There's only 2 ways. You're either sowing to the kingdom of Antichrist, or you're sowing to the Spirit. There's only 2 kingdoms. And men right now, especially believers, Jesus has already warned us what's coming. The days ahead of us, if they weren't shortened, no flesh would be left alive. But for the elect's sake, those days will be shortened. He said there has never been a time like it in human history, nor will there ever be a time after it. And we're talking about the time before it, like when the flood happened and there were actual giants roaming the earth. There were actual fallen angels roaming the earth. Like, there was a time where, like, even the humans themselves were superhuman compared to what we are now. And I don't care what anybody says. It's like anybody living 900 years old under the greenhouse under like in like key conditions. I mean, I guarantee you humans were probably 8 to 9 feet tall back then, just because they could. They were growing. They didn't have any like genetic inhibitors the same way we do right now. Period. The human genome has been degrading since our fall from the garden. And it's obvious. We are not evolving. We are not getting better. We're getting weaker, and low-key, it's like our life expectancy is probably 60 years right now. Without the artificial enhancements of modern society. But those who know their God will do mighty exploits and will instruct many. Jesus said the days that are ahead of us are going to be the darkest times, the most violent times, the most brutal times in human history. In human history. So, I mean, it's like, I hear that, and I've heard what some people say is, it's like, well, yeah, we don't need to see giants for that to be the case. No, maybe not, but I mean, the fact of the matter is like, there's already the setup for Terminators, robots are already here. I mean, there's already been plenty of accounts of people, I would say, specialized armed forces of the world fighting things that aren't supposed to exist. There's plenty of social media evidence. There's plenty of videos now of things that your parents told you that were make-believe that aren't so make-believe anymore. So whether or not we're going to be fighting armies of giants or reptilians or gray aliens or whatever, whether or not we're going to be fighting any of those things, whatever's coming is going to be worse than 1,000 years of history where fallen angels were walking among men and their offspring were too. I don't know how that can be the case when it's like when the time is so compressed, but that should make everybody pause. There's nothing that you can do that's going to like prepare you for these days, except for knowing your God and being faithful to do what he's told you to do. If he's calling you to train, which I contend he is, he's calling every single red-blooded Christian male to do something. Do something, for goodness sakes. And I'm not talking about go do your Zumba class and go walk like 3 miles on a treadmill. I'm talking about learn some combat. Learn how to strike. Learn how to use a knife. Learn how to use your firearm. Yeah, it's like these are basic things. Like, know how to do what you have. At least know how to use a knife. At least know how to properly put. I mean, it's like, there's only so much you can do by shooting paper. But if you can't even hit the paper at 3 yards, just give up. Let's not even like go with your pistol. Practice the knife, okay? Or pay somebody to at least like run you through paces, because you're useless with a weapon. And honestly, most people who have guns are completely useless with them anyway, because it takes hundreds of hours of training with a firearm to become like at least proficient with it. And it takes hundreds of more to become advanced, just like it takes hundreds of hours to even like know what you're doing with your body, even to know how to throw a proper punch. It's like I'm still working with people that I've worked with over the years, where I'm still having to tell them, hey, Tuck, do not open your thumbs while you're punching. You're gonna break your thumbs doing that. You know what I mean? It's just like it's wild how much training to be even somewhat decent at something takes. But do it anyway. Do it anyway. I'm contending with you to do it anyway. Man, I'm just driving to work thinking about what's coming. And I know something's coming. I don't know when. I kind of have a couple ideas of what. But at the end of the day, even if you think you have an idea of what, you're going to have to multiply it times 10 so that it goes completely outside of your grid of what terrifying and fear is. Because that's what Jesus said is going to be. And the only thing the only person that can prepare you for the horror of the thing that's coming, and to prepare you to be effective in the midst of the horror of the things that are coming, is knowing your God. Know your God, train, and quit being lazy. Get off your asses and do something. Your family, you owe your families that. You owe the Lord that. Give him your fear. And do what he tells you to do. Be faithful. Start now. Because if you don't start now, and you think that you can just pick up when everything happens, you can't. It doesn't work like that. Search the Lord while he still may be found. because there's coming a time where there's going to be a famine of the word of the Lord, and if you haven't sown to having that word and His Spirit in you, you're not going to have Him, and you're going to have to follow people that do. So sow to the Spirit. Know your God. Train. Again, train. And ask Him, where do I start? And hey, I'm going to be putting out videos too. If you need to learn how to throw a basic punch, I'm going to be doing some videos on that. You need to know how to even just hold the knife properly. One way to do it. I'm going to do some stuff like that. I do a couple self-defense things, stuff that you can study, stuff that's easy to take, something that you can repeat, something that you can actually put on in a class and actually follow what I'm doing step by step. Martial Matters. Check it. Peace.
Understand that at the moment you take a hold of the truth of it, you become an immovable juggernaut in the thick of it.